Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Liam Dann, New Zealand Herald Business Editor at Large. This is a podcast where we talk to New Zealanders about money and how it has shaped their lives. We're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not going to pick the next interest rate move. But we are going to get you thinking about your relationship with money and what it really means to you. With me, I have Theresa Gattung, businesswoman, entrepreneur, director, former very high-profile CEO of New Zealand's largest company. Welcome, Theresa.
Kia ora, good afternoon, Liam.
Great to have you here. There's a lot in your sort of story around business and success and money and things, but I wanted to jump back and maybe get a little bit of your first memories of money. So I wondered, can you remember the first time you held money in your hands, or the first time you can sort of imagine money being something in your life?
No, not really. I can't. I think I grew up with parents who had a really good attitude to money.
Yeah.
So my parents were immigrants from London, but they didn't have a scarcity mentality about money. They actually had a belief that if you worked hard,
yeah,
and you could make money, and that there was plenty of money for you and everybody else. So they didn't have this zero-sum game, win-lose.
Yep.
And so my sisters and I, my parents had 4 daughters, were brought up to believe that you had to work. It didn't just come to you. And, of course, they certainly didn't start with any. But that all things were possible. So I think I had quite a good positive attitude about money. I didn't have any fear of it. I didn't have any scarcity mentality about there isn't enough.
Sure. There wasn't a sense that I mean, in those days it was a bit different in New Zealand. People didn't feel rich, poor, or whatever, I guess. But was it like that for you growing up? Did you feel like you were sort of in that New Zealand middle bracket, or? Yeah,
definitely. You're right. I went to a small Catholic school in Rotorua. And that school doesn't even exist anymore. Actually, it was subsumed by the boys' school next door.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there were orchardists' daughters there. There were lawyers' daughters there. Because it was Catholic, most of us came from big families. I mean, 4 children was sort of trying, but there were plenty bigger than that. So, some people lived in nicer parts of Rotorua than others, but that wasn't really instrumental in who we played with, or it was actually more about achieving at school. It was encouraged to, do well in exams. And so, money wasn't really, I didn't really grow up with any distinctions around it or as part of my identity in any way.
No. Did you get pocket money, for example, or was it sort of part-time jobs?
I can't even remember that. I can remember the most instrumental thing about money or lack of money happened when I was about 13 and I was studying French. Maybe I was 14 and I wanted to go to New Caledonia, and Mum and Dad said, no, we can't afford it. It was a school trip, because if we do it for you, have to do it for the others. And that was the first time I remember thinking, gosh, you need money to do the things you want.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of when I decided, well, I'm going to do the things I want. Therefore, I need money.
Yep.
And so I guess I decided then that I would make sure that, I could always do what I wanted. And my father was way ahead of his time, had 5 sisters, definitely a feminist. And so he encouraged all of us to earn our own money, not to rely on the state and not to rely on a man. And that was very good advice.
Yeah. So did you get to New Caledonia?
No, I didn't.
So that was like that was a real realization.
That was a real realization.
You don't have the money, you can't do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember sort of I mean, as you got older and teens and things, were the things that you wanted to buy or that you saved up for? Or?
Yes, I did start working part-time when I was 15, so I got my driver's license 3 weeks after I turned 3 weeks after I turned 15. I mean, Those were the days when you went and set the test and you were away. Yes, my father had been a driving instructor in England, and so one day we were driving along in the Bay of Plenty with my sister, and we had actually a roof rack and wood, and Dad said, right, have a go. So it was an empty long road, of course, but so he taught me to drive. I got my driver's license, so I was away. But yes, I had a part-time job in a fabric shop and then a clothes shop. So I worked to earn money as soon as I could from sort of age of 15.
Yeah. And did that sort of carry through, I guess, because you went on to university and you worked your way through there? I mean,
I had 2 jobs at university. I was a swimming pool attendant and I was a waitress. But those were the days where you didn't have to have big student loans. You got a small amount to go to university. So, I had a car, and relatively speaking, it was much easier then to to get into university and to get a degree.
Yeah. I mean, as a student, were there times where you felt poor? I mean,
no, never.
So you
never.
I guess. Have you always managed to keep a buffer so that you haven't felt like you're going to be wondering where the, paying the rent is going to come from? And
yes, I have. I sort of worked out quite early on because I was interested in being a lawyer when I left high school, but then I realised there weren't many jobs. There was not that many jobs for lawyers at that point. So I went to Waikato University, looked at the business degree, thought it was wonderful. So I did a business degree. So if you start out doing a business degree, you're thinking about money.
Yep.
And I still had a hankering to be a lawyer, so I did a law degree as well. Yep. But when I finished that, I decided I would stay in business where I'd been working. I can't remember what question you asked me, how I got onto that. What did you ask me?
Well, just about jobs through university.
Oh, yeah. So I had, when I did a law degree, I didn't want to have no money. To avoid that, I worked part-time and studied part-time. So So for the 8 years that I was a student, I was always earning money.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got a really good job. I had a double degree by that point. I had really good jobs. I got promoted. So I've never really had to worry about, paying the rent or later paying the mortgage.
Sure. Can I jump back to your parents, because they,
Yes.
they came from the UK and presumably had to sort of start from nothing in New Zealand, and so were they quite entrepreneurial? Did they, was that sort of small business mentality in your family?
Yes. My father in particular was entrepreneurial, and my mother had a real sense of adventure. And the two of those together, they came from very risk-averse environments. But, to come to New Zealand was a risk, taking a risk.
Yep.
They came, they loved the place. They were £10 poms. You pay £10, you come, you say you won't leave, you won't go back for 2 years. And in that time, of course, they had me and my next sister. They loved New Zealand. They capitalised the family benefit. They got into their first house. And that was really the start of my father's love with property. He only died recently this year, and we were very, very close. And he always thought getting a first home as soon as you could.
Yeah.
And then, building up equity in that, using that to buy another home. That was always his way to actually build up wealth. In fact, I probably did that less than my sisters because I was so busy working in business that I probably didn't have the time or energy to do that as a side hustle.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it, isn't it? Almost ironically, your path was big business in a way. I mean, you got on the corporate ladder. I mean, can you just take us through? You come out of university. The leap into the corporate world. How you got into the right place, I guess, to be starting on that path?
Well, again, I think it probably was easier than it is today, although today you've got more choice. Today you could go and work for a great entrepreneur.
Yep.
And when I went through, that wasn't really an option.
There was no startups.
There was no startups. That language is the language of the last 15 years. So I went to Wellington and I did a law degree, and I didn't want to be a poor student, as we've discussed. So I rang TVNZ and said, I've got a business degree in marketing and economics. And they happened to have someone leaving. And so I basically got that job through just chutzpah, just calling, and started there. I worked there until just about I nearly finished my law degree. I tried to get into investment banking. I couldn't because I was a woman.
Yeah, still a bit of a closed shop.
Yeah, well, it's come to it later than other professions like accountancy and law, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Although some firms are now getting with the program. So I went to National Mutual as market research manager. I got promoted to marketing manager. And then I saw an ad for the Chief Manager of Marketing at the Bank of New Zealand, applied to, and got that job. And that I started the day of the financial bailout.
Right.
So that was a total baptism by fire. And I loved my time there, but towards the end of my time there, it got bought by NAB and the culture changed, didn't suit me as well. And again, serendipitously, but also with a bit of initiative on my part, one day we were driving home, I drove my car off the road, and the guy who stopped to help me was the then marketing manager at Telecom, who told me that he would be retiring back to the US. Yeah. And so I did everything in my power to get myself in the frame, and it took a while. I had a few no's, but eventually I managed to get an interview with Roderick Dean, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, so that's one of those very fortuitous pivot moments in your history where you it sort of put the idea in your head at least.
Yes.
And obviously, look, that went well, and to the point, of being quite an historic thing. Being CEO of New Zealand's biggest company at, was it 37?
Mm-hmm.
And also probably, I don't know whether it was the first female CEO of a listed company. Yeah, so, a real breakthrough role. Obviously, there's a lot of telecom story there, but I mean, in terms of, that role, and, it's about making money for shareholders. So it is about money, but it's more expansive than that as well, isn't it? So how did you juggle those things in the role? I mean,
well, you're leading a big group of people. That's what it's fundamentally about. And of course, that's what I loved. I loved the process of selecting an executive team, coaching people, working with them, nurturing talent through. I loved all the drama that is the intersection of money and people.
Yeah.
When people say to me, I don't read the business pages, I don't listen to the business news, I go, wow, how can that be? Because for me, there's nothing more fascinating than the intersection of money and people.
Yeah.
So I really loved the fact that there were many levers to pull, there were many choices to be made, and of course the technology changed out of sight in that time. When I started telecom, I had a pager and a huge mobile phone, and there was no such thing as the internet. Through that 13 years that I was there, the environment around us changed considerably.
Yeah, and it is, I mean, as a sort of a metaphor for wider life and things, there's that, there is a bottom line to business and making a profit for shareholders, but I guess there's a balancing act because, as you say, it's people and managing, leading people, inspiring people, getting them all to work together efficiently. You've got to find a sort of a balance between the black and white on the balance sheet and I guess all the what some people say is the fluffy stuff, but the stuff of the people stuff.
EQ really matters.
Yeah.
How people feel is way more important than what they think. So people really matter in any business environment.
Yeah. Were the things, I mean, if you think about your relationship with money, were the things that doing that job taught you about money or about the way that, I guess, It
reinforced some things for me. When I got my first full-time job, which actually was at National Mutual because I worked part-time at TVNZ while I was studying, I started direct debits every week to 4 charities, all of which I support today. And because I thought I'm so fortunate to have got these 2 degrees, to have this really good job, I knew I was on a high income relative to my law graduate peers because I was in a business. And I believe that money is an energy, that currency, that if you actually both spend and give, you will get back. So this sounds a bit, airy-fairy, but so I thought that I had to keep that energy circulating, that I had to I've never ever thought, oh gosh, it's all my own individual brilliance. I've always thought it was a co-creation with what was going on in the world and the people around me and people who'd helped me and sometimes just sheer good luck. And having that amount of money enabled me to actually be more generous than I had been. But also I got used to a good life. I mean, you do. And so seriously, by the now I would never fly international economy. I just couldn't. My body wouldn't bend into the seat. So you do get used to a nice life once you've on a really good income.
I was going to say, so when you first, and obviously as soon as you become a CEO, you're subject to all sorts of things like the New Zealand Herald's pay survey and all that sort of stuff, which was, I'm sure you would have been a star of that in some respects. Back then, and I know the CEOs don't necessarily love it because it's all more complicated than. But was there a moment where you realised, okay, I am financially in a very good spot here. Was there any sense of splashing out an indulgent purchase to sort of recognise that you weren't going to be, you weren't going to be financially struggling from that point, probably?
Not really, because I've always wanted to keep a buffer, as we related to before.
Yeah. And
actually, I didn't mind about the CEO pay surveys.
Yeah. And
I can remember Anne Sherry and I, when we were number 1 and 2, saying, well, this is actually really good role modelling for girls and women coming through. And what I mind more is that once Anne Sherry and I were no longer in the corporate world, there was a decade when there was no woman on that list. So the fact that now we've got women running banks, we've got Jolie running Spark, we've actually got more women back heading that list again and through the list. Hallelujah, it took 20 years. It was 20 years since we last had a female Prime Minister, a female leader of the opposition, a female Chief Justice, female leader of Spark, which of course isn't the biggest company now, but still a very big company.
Yeah.
It's been a long time between drinks, Liam.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been quite active in that space. I wonder, do you think, I mean, Is there a kind of I guess a sexism or something about the way that our attitudes to money are in the world and in New Zealand? In terms of,
I think women can be more scared of taking risks with money. This is a generalisation. It's always difficult talking generalisations. I'm a risk taker, obviously. I'm a risk taker. So, I signed 100 personal guarantees to get my food bag going.
Yep.
So, if they hadn't worked, there was a lot of food suppliers who were going to be paid by me personally and Celia and James. So it's not just being smart and being in the right place at the right time. It is being prepared to take risks.
Yep.
And if you don't have that genie in you, that's not part of your DNA makeup, that's fine. Stay in the corporate world. Don't become an entrepreneur, because you've got to be able to deal with a high level of risk. Have
we got better? I mean, you wonder if, when you look at some of the reasons why there's pay inequity, for example, and it exists, and then of course companies and HR departments will look around and they'll shuffle their feet and say, "But but is there something sort of structural there about the way we're bringing up girls?" Well,
there's a couple of things, but first of all, we need pay transparency. Nobody would think it was okay for Jacinda to have been paid less than John Key, right?
Yeah.
Whether he'd been in the job 6 years and she'd only been in one, no way. We have pay transparency with MPs. You know what you're going to get, Leader of the Opposition. You know what you're going to get, Backbench MP.
Yep.
We don't have pay transparency in most of the rest of New Zealand.
Yeah.
And if we had pay transparency, it would make it so much easier for women to see what they were worth and to ask for it. It's not having that, I think that's the problem. So girls don't really get brought up to think and talk about money as very much. And where do you go to learn? So I did a business degree.
Yep.
And then I had the most fantastic, Roderick was a fantastic mentor to me in that regard. So analytical, so clever. Jeff White, who was the former the CFO at Telecom when I joined Telecom. I got really good on-the-job training. And I've always loved maths. I got, very high scores at maths from school C onwards. But then when I was 17, I went to do maths at the boys' school next door and had teachers who thought only boys could do maths.
Yeah.
So women have to learn that somehow, somewhere. That's one of the reasons why I brought Shio to New Zealand to support female entrepreneurs, because there's so many women now who want to share their knowledge and skill to help other women create a better world for everybody. And so I feel like I can use some of the experience that I've got over the last several decades, while I've still got good energy, to help address this gap. And right now in New Zealand, compared to 3 years ago, we've got a much better pipeline of money for female entrepreneurs, because you can get early stage money through Shio. We've now got the Archangels Fund investing only in female founders. We've got some great success stories. Celia Robinson is a great success story. Ethik, Brandy West is a great success story. And that means other younger women go, look, I could do that. And then they know where to go to for advice. Yeah.
So just finishing up that part of the story, since you left Telecom, that's where a lot of your energy's gone. My food bag has been a huge success, and is probably where a lot of the profile is. But there are other areas where you're looking at startups and looking at investment, and as well as the groups around sort of helping that happen.
Yes, that's right. Well, Shio is. I have made some subsequent investments in the companies that have been selected each year to support them, but that's not primarily what it's about. It's primarily about women coming together, donating $1,000 to pick the 5 ventures each year led by women that they want to support, who are trying to create a better world and run a business, and then that money is paid back. That money's paid back, and when it's paid back, it's loaned out again to another business. So we've got a pool of nearly $1 million now, which is in constant circulation. We've got 15 ventures funded, and we'll start the next cycle soon.
That's great. And these are people that could come from all sorts of backgrounds, I guess, when
totally.
People with ideas.
This year, Candice Pardee, Gisborne, a young female Māori entrepreneur. Kiri Nathan, Aucklander. Vicky Cashman, an American who lives in New Zealand, has done for 20 years. Kiri. My mind's gone blank on the other two. I'll remember. She was like Nisa Wellington. So geographic spread, gender orientation spread, wahine Māori woman, because we were very white when we started, and we've been really on a push to say, look, this is really about women supporting all women. I don't want this to look like, it's the Parnell Sisters group.
Yeah, sure. And and thinking about that, one of the things I'm keen to talk about is Is that, we've talked about the gender side of it, but when you look at, poverty and how people get stuck in a poverty trap, are you looking at pathways out when you look at things like entrepreneurship? And how do you, I guess the question is, what do you think we can do about that poverty trap, and whether we need new ways of looking at that?
Gosh, that's a difficult question.
It is a big one.
It's a really, I'm quite clear about what I think we should do about the domestic violence trap, which is support Gandhi Nevis, Rajna Patel's, who was Visionary Leader of the Year, the Deloitte Awards breakthrough program. That messy research have proven to be effective over the last 4 years, which is, for goodness sake, the breakthrough idea is take the man out of the situation, put him in the home, wrap counselling around him, and leave the women and children in their home in a safe environment with their pets, going to their school, etc. So, that is a genius idea. It's a new way of looking at something that's seems intractable. It needs to scale up. It needs government support and private support to scale up. Poverty looks equally intractable, and it's got many strands to it. I support actually many charities in South Auckland. I support the Aunties. I support Kautuitui Papakura Trust. They're all in their own way trying to do things within the community, and I think there is a lot of power starting at the community level. But look, I'm not a politician. I don't know what the top-down answer is, but I do think the makeup of our current cabinet is fantastic. You've seen all the business research that shows diversity gets better results. It's got to get better results for a country in politics as well. Yeah,
well, I guess it's always frustrated me through the business journalism side, but that kind of traditional left-right divide is not helpful in terms of it almost sort of keeps the left shy of business, and the right's supposed to be the business people, but they're supposed to be looking after themselves, and it doesn't necessarily ring that true, and it's not helpful to...
I couldn't agree more. And honestly, you have to take one look at America to see where that division takes you. It's nowhere good, right?
Yeah. So when you look at you're not a politician, so that's fair enough. But if there was something that you could change, that you had all the power, and even Jacinda Ardern doesn't have all the power. I get that it's not as simple as that. But is there something that you would like to see in terms of policies and things shift in New Zealand that might make a difference?
Look, I think it's starting. Māori having more say over their own affairs. The Māori economy is huge. I went through law school with a group of people who were determined to do their best for their people, and they've become judges, and really the whole treaty process. That's the start of dealing with the all of our history, and so that has to continue, because wherever you look at the stats, whether it's prison or pay, you talked before, the gender pay gap is about 9%, but the gender pay gap to women of colour is closer to 15%, or so between 15 and 20%, depending on when it's been measured and how it's measured. So what's the intersectionality there? Actually, it's both addressing inherent racism and sexism, and it's how if you start there, then you've got a fighting chance of actually not having that go to the next generation. Yeah,
so you kind of got to you need a platform that people have got some sort of ability to leap off, I guess. We had it to some extent because of family and that sort of thing, so you can see how we had a path to university and things, but some people are just not Look, I think it's a shame that Deal with School for Boys, hasn't been Deal with School for Girls for the last 20 years as well. They're trying to get that going now. It should have been a thing before. The best education for everyone, not just the people who could afford it. There's been movements through that, but we haven't done it in a way, I think, that's allowed girls to access that in the same way that we've enabled that for boys. And getting that financial literacy across, it's hard because schools are busy with everything, but would you like to see that kind of thing more through? I don't. In school, yes. Look, there's so much pressure for teachers to fit everything in. I certainly think as a career pathway, because university is no longer necessarily the ticket. Today that might not just give you a big student debt and no job at the end of it. So encouraging people to go and work for entrepreneurs, because you can learn by watching. Yeah. And if you don't come from an entrepreneurial background as a girl, or as a boy from some environments, you don't even realise it's a possibility. Yeah. And so that being a thing,
you can start with a trade, but you can actually just go and start working for someone who's really good, because some of those businesses grow quite fast. I mean, we had, from the minute my food bag was launched, we just had people contacting us, please, we want to work for you. And same thing with doctors now, we're doing 10, please, we'd want to work for you, but we're not doing 10 nationwide yet, just in Auckland.
Yeah.
So you can get, but like I did when I was ringing people for jobs in my early 20s, you can get on the ground floor of some of the companies that are going to be the growth engine, and you can learn a lot that way. And then you can stay with them, or you can start your own business.
Yeah. And look, this is not a and I probably even have to get a disclaimer in. This is not a podcast where you should take what we say as personal finance advice. That's for the FMA. But if you're thinking about money, I mean, are you someone who's got your money structured in all those correct ways? Is every dollar working for you when it's
There've been lots of periods in my life when I've just been too busy to do anything, But do I? Well, I do have my money not just in one bank. I have my money in 2 different banks. So, in fact, I have money in 3 different banks in New Zealand. So, I think it's unlikely that one bank would go under. But in our lifetime, we've seen Westpac in Australia, the 80s have problems. And so that's something that the experts would say. Don't have it all in one place. I have a spread of investments. I'm probably long in property at the moment, but it hasn't always been like that. I didn't pull my money out of shares when COVID hit, but I did pull it recently because I thought when he got the virus, there's only going to be bad ending here. So, I look at events. I don't always react. I do believe that, things tend to even it out in time. So I've got reasonable diversity, but I've also got things that I'm passionate about. Like, I've always loved horses. So I've got investments to support my friend Cindy Mitchell's daughter Lee Tootle. I own 2 rather expensive equestrian horses.
It's a bit like boats or something.
Currently, that's right. So I'm not in boats. Well, we've done okay with some of the horses we've had, but, in Spain at the moment, competing, that's an expensive investment.
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit of passion stuff going on, but on the whole, I think that I have followed guidelines. Yeah.
So that's great. So money, in that sense, you're buying yourself some freedom and some ability to do things and make things happen in your world that you want to see happen. I mean, that seems to be a big driver of how money is useful to you.
Yes, I equate money with freedom. Totally. That's how I see it. I don't equate it with I'm a better person or I've won, or I don't believe that whoever dies the richest has won. I don't believe that. I really believe that who dies having lived their best life, understanding their own gifts, giving them to the world and enjoying themselves along the way wins, actually. So, money for me is totally about freedom.
That's great. Look, that's probably a good place to leave it. Just thinking about the fact that money, the reason why we want to make money in our lives and why we need money in our lives, and that it serves a purpose. So, look, fantastic to talk, Theresa, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Liam. Ngā mihi nui.
And thanks for listening, guys. Please feel free to get in touch with me, Liam.Dan at nzherald.co.nz, if you have feedback to this show or any of the others, and tune in to the next episode. Cheers.